here on Tuesday, the 7th of November. Apologies for absence.
Yes, Chair, I've received apologies from Councillor Rana Thompson.
Yes, I think he's on his honeymoon, isn't he? Minutes of the... Yes, sorry. Councillor Reid. Minutes of the previous meeting. Minutes of the previous meeting held on Tuesday the 3rd of October have been circulated. Can we agree those as a true record of the meeting? Thank you very much indeed. Disclosures of members' interests. Have any members of the committee got any interests they wish to disclose? No? Thank you. That brings us on to determination of planning applications. And of course, we've got 4 applications before us this afternoon. I'm just going to quickly go through procedure for those who are new to the Strategic Planning Committee. As Chair, I welcome the members and also those watching on live stream. I also introduce the application, asking members if they've seen the site visit videos that have been circulated. I then ask the Planning Officer if there are any updates, changes to recommendations, and ask him to present his report. We then have a public speaking slot, 5 minutes for the objector, 5 minutes for a local member, and 5 minutes for the applicant. We then have a slot where members of the Planning Committee can put questions to our planning officers, and following that, we go to debate. We ask for a proposal, a seconder, and then we carry out the debate. And obviously, the vote is by a majority of our planning committee. So, ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon, our first item on the agenda is construction of a solar farm and battery energy storage facility, together with all associated works, equipment and necessary infrastructure. And that's at land south of Broadway House Farm, Church Lane, Bedlington, to be found on page 13. So I would now like to ask our case officer, Mr. Gordon Halliday, to introduce the application. Gordon, over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. There's one update. You should have been sent, or you were sent, an addendum report on Monday. There were some discussions late last week about new guidance that, well, it actually came out in August, to do with fire safety plans. It's a little bit of a belt and braces approach because the applicant for this application had submitted a very comprehensive fire safety plan, covering all the relevant considerations really that were in this new planning practice guidance that was issued in August. But what we decided to do was to add or to recommend the addition of a new condition. I'll just read it out. It was following discussions with the Fire and Rescue Service and the applicant. And it relates to the battery energy storage system that is proposed as part of this development. So the sort of new condition is recommended to say no development shall take place until the emergency response plan, as required by Section 11 of the Fire Safety Management Plan, etc. That's the plan that was actually report that was submitted with the application, has been submitted to and improved in writing by the local planning authority. So the change here is that plan would have been submitted to the fire service alone. What we're proposing now is that it's actually submitted as a formal planning, discharge of a planning condition. The approved emergency response plan shall be adhered to and implemented through the lifetime of the development. So it's a bit belt and braces, but it sort of gives an additional safeguard, really, because the sort of discharge of the condition is obviously more open and transparent than something that sort of happens behind the scenes in the fire service. So that's the only addition. No other representations or late submissions or anything like that. I'm clicking, but nothing's happening. Oh, there we are. Sorry, did I miss one? Okay, so location of the site, south of Bedlington, accessed from a temporary construction on the main road, and it's the fields marked, bounded in red at the south, north of the Plessy Country Park. Sorry, west of the Plessy Country Park, south of the Bedlington Golf Course, and it's the fields at the bottom of there that are proposed for the solar arrays. A sort of larger scale map of that, 79 hectares of land, very, very similar to the two that you approved at your meeting in November last year. Same sort of size of development, same sort of output, 49.95 megawatts of electricity. And it's the fields that are marked in the lighter green colour that are proposed for the development. The sort of little bit stretching above the fields is where the site compound would be. New construction access off the main road so that it avoids going through Bedlington or down Church Lane. Main elements of the proposal, usual sort of things, solar arrays 3 metres high, 3 to 8 metres apart, located in these 10 fields. There would be continued sheep grade. Well, the actual site at the moment is used for sort of haylage. During the development, there would be continued sheep grazing on the land, and it would have an export capacity of just under the 50 megawatt limit, which is required under the Planning Acts. It includes this battery energy storage system in the southeast of the site. Basically, that's to enable energy to be stored until it's needed by the grid, and that has a capacity of 60 megawatts. Associated works, equipment and necessary infrastructure, and it includes a 66 kV substation as part of the development, various access tracks for maintenance, a 40-year lifespan, perimeter fencing, quite a comprehensive range of landscape and screening measures, in particular along the western and southern boundaries. So there are a couple of objections from people on the Hartford Hall residential estate. They would see the development filtered through some trees, but during winter there sort of wouldn't be leaves on the trees, and there are landscape proposals which I'll show you a couple of slides of later that would effectively screen the development from the small number of houses that are affected. Various biodiversity enhancements as well. As I said earlier, the construction access is via the A1068 Hartford Road through Golf Club land. The operational access would be via Church Lane, but there's actually very, very minimal operational need for access. There's obviously occasional maintenance, replacement of defective structures, etc. and then decommissioning and reinstatement after 40 years. It's a very difficult site to actually take photographs of. It's very, very secluded. I've certainly not had any experience of a site as, I'm not going to say it's invisible, but as having so restricted visibility from outside the site. So these various photographs are taken from inside the site, looking across the fields that are going to be developed. A number of them in sort of different angles, but showing very, very similar sorts of things. So you can see it's flat land. It is undulating it to the south down to the river. But typical views across the development site at the present time. That's the view in summer from a property on the Hartford Hall estate. There was, as I said, there was a couple of objections, and one of the objectors invited me to look at the property look at the site from their property. I sort of went in summer, so you couldn't actually see the site because it's behind all these part of the country park that contains mature woodland, 60 or 70 metres of that woodland. But in winter, these, as I said earlier, these trees won't have their leaves, and you'll get filtered views through to the field, which is why there is the landscaping proposals. This is where the construction access is on the A1068 road, very, 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 very close to, it's between the entrance to Bedlington Golf Club and the sign that marks the entrance to the settlement of Bedlington. So there's a sort of, these two white posts aren't rugby posts or goal posts, they're posts to sort of mark where the construction access would be, and it would be taken across that field. As I said earlier, it's a dedicated construction access in order to avoid construction heavy goods traffic travelling through Bedlington and up past residential properties in Church Lane. 9 months anticipated construction period, so the access goes in, the site is developed, and then after the 9 months, that construction access is removed and the land is reinstated. So this is the view in winter from the Hartford Hall estate. These are photo montages that have been submitted by the applicant. So it sort of shows the sort of thing that I was talking about earlier, the sort of fact that in winter you sort of obviously do get filtered views. So the sort of top one is an existing view. You can just about see the westernmost field of the proposed development through the trees. Year 1 view down below, and then a sort of year 5 view once this landscaping on the edge of the site has developed to its sort of 5-year, and then obviously after then for the rest of the site, for the next 35 years of the site, you aren't going to have any views of the solar arrays because of the landscaping that's going to be carried out. There's an informal path through that woodland. So this is a view from that informal path within the country park. So the existing view, the sort of year 1 view, and again the year 5 view once you've got established landscaping on the edge of the site. A view from Horton Road, as I said, it's very, very difficult getting views of this development from outside the site. It's the actual site is to the right of the pylon in the middle distance. Very, very difficult to actually see anything there. So in conclusion, I mean, it comes down to the planning balance, doesn't it, as always? The solar farm would generate a significant amount of electricity from a clean, renewable source, and the BESS would provide for the storage of that energy, assist in integrating renewable energy with the national grid. These benefits of the scheme are afforded significant weight, both in your policies in the Northumberland Local Plan and also in government policy, in the National Planning Policy Framework. I've done a couple of recent appeals on behalf of Durham County Council. Strong emphasis by inspectors there about the benefits that are afforded through national and local policy to renewable energy and solar farm development under current planning policy. The assessment of the application has identified that there would be some landscape and visual harm. It's set out in your report. Yes, it's not very well. It's virtually not visible from outside the site, but clearly within the site, if you're putting arrays on 80 hectares of land, you are changing landscape character. So so you are changing the sort of character and the visual appearance of that land, but very, very localized and really only apparent from within the site or from in very close proximity in the early years, such as along that path that I was talking about earlier. There's also likely to be a reduction in agricultural production. It's government policy says that solar farms should not use best and most versatile land. None of the land here is best and most versatile. It's all grade 3B. It's all former, or the vast majority is former open cast land. I've walked over the site several times, and there's signs of what I know it was a wet summer, so perhaps not the best of times to see it, but there are clear signs of sort of waterlogging on that site. So yes, there'll be some reduction in agricultural production because sheep, as opposed to arable, is obviously has a detrimental effect on agricultural production. So that needs to be weighed in the planning balance. All the other effects that we've looked at in terms of heritage, ecology, safety, glint and glare, a whole variety of possible effects that are gone through in detail in your report, are either acceptable or can be made acceptable by appropriate mitigation and the planning conditions that are recommended. So in conclusion, the officer view is that the significant benefits of this scheme would outweigh the limited harm, and the officer recommendation is to grant planning permission subject to the conditions in the report plus the addition of the extra condition that I referred to at the beginning. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Gordon. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, we now come to our public speaking slot. For this application number 5, we've got 2 public speakers. We've got Councillor Adam Hogg from West Bedlington Town Council, and we have Jonathan Selwyn speaking in support of the application. Councillor Adam Hogg, would you like to address the committee for no more than 5 minutes, sir? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and members. West Bedlington Town Council supports this application. The developer has discussed this application with the Town Council over a number of meetings and also listened to both the Town Council and residents' concerns regarding any construction traffic using Church Lane, and has removed this from being an issue during construction via the construction of the temporary construction route off Hertford Road, which is already being welcomed by residents in the area. The Town Council supports the environmental gain and increased biodiversity of the site as a result of this application through increased tree planting and hedgerow planting and the introduction of wildflower areas. This application also provides a much needed reduction in the town's overall carbon footprint, which again benefits residents of the town. The Town Council also welcomes any community gain finances from this application, this again benefiting the community and town. The Town Council are grateful that this application has considered the views of residents and the Town Council, and this is why the Town Council support the application. We ask the committee to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Now invite Jonathan Selwyn to speak to the committee. Floor is yours, sir. You've got 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Jonathan Selwyn, and I'm the Managing Director of Bluefield Renewable Developments, the applicant. It's good to be back in the council chamber, as Gordon said, a year after we were last here, presenting a couple of solar farms nearby. As a reminder, the Bluefield Group is a UK-based business which develops, builds and operates solar farms on behalf of the stock market-listed Bluefield Solar Income Fund. The group has over 150 staff based in London and Bristol, with field engineers operating around the country. The fund has invested nearly £1 billion in solar since its foundation in 2013 and currently owns over 110 solar and battery projects, providing an aggregate capacity of over 800 megawatts, which provides up to 3% of the UK's daytime electricity. Because we own and operate the solar farms and battery storage facilities we develop, we seek to establish long-term relationships with local communities and local authorities. Turning to Broadway House Farm, we had originally contacted the landowner of Broadway House Farm about the possibility of developing a solar farm and battery storage facility some years ago, but he had decided to go forward with another developer. Following this committee's approval of planning last year for our 2 projects at Bedlington and Low Horton, the landowner approached us and asked us if we would take over the development of the project. The project had already secured a grid connection at Bedlington Switching Station, which is the same connection point as Burnt House Farm. And this council had provided an EIA screening opinion and pre-application advice to the previous developer. Having looked at the site in detail, we agreed to take it on because we felt it would be an ideal site for solar and battery storage. Why do we feel this? For our solar farms, we require a viable grid connection, a site that's consistent with planning policy, which is well screened, not on BMV land, has good topography, and a supportive landowner. As mentioned, we already had a grid connection secured. As Gordon has mentioned, this is an extremely well screened site with advantageous topography. We've chosen to locate the solar and battery storage carefully to avoid visibility from surrounding areas. 100% grade 3B land, so not best and most versatile, and it's not used for food production. As mentioned, it's a site of substantial former open cast coal mining, and we've consulted with the coal authority to make sure our infrastructure is not located near to the old high walls of the mine. There's no public rights of way across the site, there's no statutory designations, and the project has been designed to enhance and expand existing biodiversity and wildlife habitats. And we've secured good access for construction, which means the traffic doesn't have to go through Bedlington Church Lane. There's low risk of flooding, and as mentioned, there are only 2 public objections and no objections from statutory consultees. Should it be built, the solar farm would offset 8,700 tonnes per annum of CO2 and provide electricity for approximately 13,000 homes per annum. We're committed to significant net biodiversity gain, including strengthening existing hedgerows, planting new ones and managing them from wildlife habitats. We're proposing a biodiversity net gain of over 40% in habitat units and 47% in hedgerow units, and we'll establish biodiversity enhancement areas with wildflower meadows and grasslands, and in the area of the solar farm, as mentioned, we'll graze sheep. We already graze sheep on over 40% of our solar farms. Once it's no longer needed for energy, the solar farm and battery can easily be decommissioned, and indeed we have a decommissioning bond established with the landowner and conditions in planning, which will mean it will be fully decommissioned. Most of the solar and most of the battery, over 90%, is fully recyclable. So those are the reasons why we feel it's a good site from a planning point of view. And we don't feel that it's going to provide any harm to the local environment, and when in fact it will enhance biodiversity. And as mentioned, we'll also provide a significant fund to the local community, as we do on our other solar projects. We very much look forward to working closely with the local community and local authorities on the project, and I trust you'll be taking your case officer's recommendation to approve the scheme, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the Planning Committee, have you any questions you wish to put to our officers? Councillor Hill.
Just the reference to the financial gain to the community that are having this. There is some harm to the landscape. It's been referred to generally. I didn't hear, unless I missed anything, any specifics of what that is. And if we prove this, are we tied down to them getting as part of a condition of this financial gain, Section 106, whatever it is?
Really, that's outside this planning application, the financial gain.
There's a section on community benefits in the report, which makes clear that this is not a valid planning consideration. So it isn't something that we are securing by Section 106 agreement or anything like that. It is something that the developer is offering, but you must not take it into account. It is not relevant to your assessment of the pros and cons of this application.
I would have thought something like this would have a Section 106. No?
No.
No.
Necessary to sort of make the development acceptable, so so it isn't covered by condition, it isn't covered by legal agreement, but there is a commitment by the developer and the operator to provide it, and the developer has, as the town council has said, has already had discussions with the town council on that particular aspect.
It'd be good to understand the sort of policy area around this, because I would have thought something like this that's the area you would think it would be a Section 106. If you can't impose it, if there's some policy reasons I've not, but just wondering why we're not got something concrete tied into this. And can we add something?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Chair. That it, yeah. It's been a long day. Councillor Hill, it's a good point. And on this application, to make this development acceptable, this proposal acceptable, it doesn't require a contribution to 106. And it's not something that we look for in terms of any of our policies or asks to make it acceptable. It's not like a housing development where we want to see a certain amount of affordable housing because we've got policies that support that. This is the developer in this situation going over and beyond what he needs to bring this application forward, and he's offering some community gain to the community, and that sits outside of the planning process. Similarly, actually, I was noticing on this application, they are also making a contribution toward biodiversity net gain. That's not yet mandatory, but they're offering in excess of 10% biodiversity net gain on this application. Again, that's to be welcomed. And it's not something that we secure through a 106 agreement on this occasion. We're going to see that in the year ahead because it will be mandatory, but at the moment this is a developer wanting to work with the community, and they're offering those as additions to what we would seek through the planning process. I hope that explains it, Chair.
It does. It does. Yeah. Thank you. Councillor.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, first of all, can I give credit to Gordon for this report, because it really does explain everything. And being a Bedlington chap, I know the area, and I really think you have covered everything that's relevant for the residents of Bedlington. But I would like to raise 2 points and ask for 2 bits of clarification, that's all. I was intrigued to read West Bedlington Town Council, who started the neighbourhood plan in 2016, 7 years ago, has a pre-submission draft which took place April 21, which is 2.5 years ago. So in effect, isn't in place yet. Had it been in place, my first question is, am I right? It would have been a material consideration. And the reason I ask that is, in the draft, they recognise this area as a local green space. And that report doesn't really reflect the fact that Bedlington Town Council, West Bedlington Town Council, after consultation with the residents, had very much wished this to be a local green space, which would carry the same weight as National Green Belt policy. So I think there is some relevance in that question that I ask, but I accept if that report, if that draft has not become a neighbourhood plan yet, Chair, we can't consider it. So my second question is, and I think I'm satisfied, but to share with the committee, I've been working and helping a group who are putting a bid into Borderlands for the protection of the Bedlington Country Park and local nature reserve. So I'm looking for reassurances, as this will be running right alongside the Bedlington Country Park and local nature reserve, that they will not lose any land at all. Otherwise, all that work they've done in their submission with maps and plans and acreage, etc., would be invalid. So I'm just seeking that insurance on behalf of that group, Chair. Thank you.
Yes, there's no. The only land involved is the farmer's land. I mean, there is no. I mean, I hear what you say about the West Bedlington neighbourhood plan. You know, yes, it could be local green space, but the fact of life is that there is no public access. There are no public rights of way through it, and there is extensive public open land on on the borders of it. You know, either on the through the Bedlington Golf Course or through the rights of way along by the river valley. So you're right. I mean, the sort of West Bedlington neighbourhood plan doesn't have any status at the present time. So its weight as a planning consideration has got to be very limited.
Councillor Malcolm Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. Go and just cross a few T's and dot a few I's. Just 3 quick questions. Well, absolutely, we've heard it 3 or 4 times. There's no public access, no public right-of-way within the curtilage of that boundary.
No, absolutely none.
Fine. My second question, can we feel confident that there will be no increase, no traffic on Church Lane associated with putting the building works in for this development? We're absolutely certain that the relief road that they're going to put in is going to carry all that traffic, anything it needs.
Yes, we can do. I mean, it's a condition of the application that all construction traffic has got to use the construction access that is going to be provided. That I sort of showed you the sort of access point on the main road. Absolutely no construction traffic is going to go past the houses along Church Lane.
Excellent. Fine. My last question is, we're giving it a 5-year time frame instead of the usual 3 years. Is there a reason for that?
Yes. On some, but there's a sort of delay in the ability of solar farms to actually get the sort of necessary agreements to come on stream. they actually need government licenses and things like that. So it's, in this case, they are anticipating not being able to actually get on stream until about 5 years' time. So that's why we've agreed to extend the time from 3 years to 5 years for the commencement of development. I think you did the same thing on at least one, if not both of the sites 12 months ago. So, I mean, it's a perfectly legitimate planning mechanism if the justification is there, and we are content that the applicant has justified that.
Yep, fine, thank you.
Any more questions? Martin Swinbank.
Thank you, Chair. Kind of leading on from the previous point, with any large-scale renewable energy development, there's an opportunity cost with regard to the grid connection, because the grid connections, I think this particular applicant told us last time when they were coming to Northumberland that the reason they were coming to Northumberland is because further south there aren't the opportunities anymore to connect into the grid because they're up to capacity. So that's a kind of competition thing. It's not something we can necessarily take on board, but there is that cost. So say in Bedlington there was a community group which was wishing to come forward in the future with a solar farm, they might find that it's actually impossible for them to do it because there isn't actually the grid connection left, capacity left in the near future. We hear stories of sort of 15 years, 13 years delay on some installations being connected. So what I was wondering about, now we've talked about the community benefit and not being part of the planning process, but I'm wondering about, are we missing a trick as an authority here in not providing some guidance to developers? We're going to see more of these applications come forward in the future on what we should be expecting, because money that this development or developments like it bring to Northumberland is still money that comes into our economy. It will be spent in our economy locally, etc., and it's good for the economy. Should we be providing guidance on what we would expect? Because these applications, these installations generate a lot of income for the developer. There's no doubt about that. And some of the ones I was looking at were suggesting that community benefit would be a couple of times greater than what's been offered in this project for per kilowatt hour, per megawatt hour, whatever. Should we be developing guidance for developers in the future when we're looking at these big kind of projects which will be coming forward?
Chair, if you don't mind, I'll answer Councillor Swinback's question. It's guidance. If you wanted guidance, it would be only that guidance. It wouldn't be policy. So we could look to think about bringing forward guidance for renewable projects, what we would like to see, what benefits we would like to see for the community. But if we wanted to bring in a policy change, we would really need to see it either on a supplementary planning policy document or something such as that, which we would need to develop through the local plan working group. Takes a little bit of time to get there. So a developer could choose not to run with the guidance, whereas a supplementary planning policy or indeed some sort of a change through the plan would be something much more robust. I'm just thinking, Chair, it's something I could take away and discuss with the planning policy team and plant that seed and see what we could develop and whether there would be feasibility to develop an SPD.
Can I just ask you through the chair, I'm looking at other solar farms that have been given permission and established throughout the country, and I'm thinking, do they pay a benefit to the community? I know we're saying it's outside our planning application today, but I'm just wondering what happens elsewhere.
I would think it's something that's been negotiated by the developer with the community, and it would be something that through the planning process it would be hard to track to find out what would happen. I think probably the idea that something comes through as a policy or a supplementary planning policy document may be of benefit to be able to get something. But sorry, Chair, I don't exactly know what happens elsewhere in the country.
Yeah. No, you know, from a planner's point of view, I was just thinking of all the applications that we gave for wind farms, again, renewable energy, where there was committees set up, and in the past we actually participated in those committees as sort of a policeman to ensure that there was a benefit to the local community. Obviously, doesn't happen solar farms, but you know, I think Councillor Hill's inquiry initially is probably based on the fact that, you know, these committees were set up when wind farms were established.
Yeah, I mean, it all started through open cast coal, you know, in my day. You know, it was, you know, open cast coal, huge environmental damage locally. Open cast coal developed in the national interest, and the industry contributed, you know, through a community fund for sort of local projects. So, I mean, it's, you know, there sort of is a background and a history to it. I mean, the sort of solar industry, I mean, I hear what Jonathan says about, you know, the extent of Bluefield's experience in the country, but it's still a relatively young industry. You know, there's sort of number of sites that, obviously there are more sites being developed across the country, but it is a relatively young industry, and I think local authorities are, you know, it's up to each local authority as to what supplementary planning guidance it needs. You know, for example, in Durham are producing a supplementary planning document on solar because they are getting a very, very large number of solar applications. I mean, you know, each authority needs to decide where it needs its supplementary planning guidance, and you know, you've sort of only got a certain amount of resources to, you know, prepare supplementary plans, and you know, it'll be up to Liz and her team to decide, you know, what the priorities are in Northumberland. I mean, you know, there's no doubt about it. At the present time, there is very, very strong government support through energy policy and through planning policy for renewables, especially solar, especially since the sort of moratorium on wind development in England. You know, it's made the industry turn to solar. You know, every indication are that things are going to change. You know, we sort of had the Prime Minister at the Tory Party conference actually saying that, you know, that sort of he was going to give more weight to the loss of agricultural production against solar development. But, you know, what happens in the future will happen in the future. But at the present time, there are very, very strong presumption in favour of solar developments.
Thank you. Any more questions from the committee? No? Could I have a recommendation from the committee? Councillor Malcolm Robinson. Thank you. Is that seconded? Seconded by Lyle Darwin. Debate. Councillor Flux.
Yeah, it's right near my ward, this, and I've probably driven past it 1,000 times, but you wouldn't be able to see it if you drove past it. You really, really, genuinely wouldn't. It would seem to me to be the ideal place for this. We've had a lot of questions about the energy sector and supplementary documents and what have we. Well, we can discuss that to the nth degree, but we are where we are with what we've got in the rule book as we sit here today. So we've got to judge what we've got in the rule book today, and this is far less intrusive than other forms of renewable energy. There are 2 wind turbines very close to this, which you can see from almost any part of Cramlington, and probably Bedlington too. Yeah. You wouldn't even know it was there unless you're really looking hard and really going through the trees and everything. You wouldn't know it's there. So I wholeheartedly support this application, Chair.
Thank you. Any more comment from the members? You know, from the chair, again, I would like to support this application. It's some more renewable energy that we're delivering in Northumberland. As has been said, it's a very well-screened site, and you know, with these applications, we're often looking at the damage that they do to people living close by, and I think that damage has been kept to a minimum in this application. The applicant does seem to have done his homework. So without any further debate, ladies and gentlemen, can we go to a vote? All those...
Chair, can I just check?
Sorry.
Sorry, Chair. Can I just check it's with the additional condition?
It
set out
is.
on the addendum as well?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, all those in favour of this application? It's unanimous, I think.
Chair.
Yeah. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. We now go on to item number 6 on our agenda this afternoon, and that's the change of use of agricultural land, again, construction of some solar VP panels, associated electrical infrastructure, small operational and battery energy storage buildings, security fencing, CCTV, access tracks, landscaping and other ancillary works. And that's to land southwest of Colshan Sciences, south of Taylor Drive in Alnwick, Northumberland. And I would like to invite David Law, our Planning Officer, Specialist Senior Officer, to present his report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I must remember to press down on the remote control, not up or back. Okay, so can I just check, there's no updates for members, but I do want to confirm that members have had sight of and read the addendum report that was issued last week.
Yes.
Yeah, excellent.
Has everybody had sight of it?
Thank you, Chair. The report confirmed that National Highways has removed their objection. Members will note that the original report was a recommendation on the basis that we resolved National Highways issues. They have now been resolved, and the addendum report sets out their response and the additional conditions. So any recommendation to approve today is subject to those conditions in the addendum report. The applications for a solar farm on the outskirts of Alnwick to serve users of a nearby retail and business parks. So just to be clear, there is no grid connection involved with this application. So the location plan, you can see highlighted in red within the hatched area there. The site extends to some 6.6 hectares. It's the southern edge of Alnwick. The A1 is adjacent to the southeast. Building to the northeast is Quotient Sciences, which phase 1A and B of this development would serve. The school is to the north, and to the east is the Lionheart Business Park. And on the other side of the A1, sort of opposite where Quotient Sciences is, that's where you've got your McDonald's and things like that. The Grade 2 listed building is on the other side of the A1 to the southeast. So the site plan members can see phase 1A is in the field on the eastern side, the large rectangle. That is fully enclosed by mature vegetation and has raised no concerns with respect to highway safety. Phase 1B is delineated by a approximate dashed line in the southwest field, and phase 2 is below that. Phases 1B and 2 can't be installed until the boundary bund along the southeast and western boundaries are installed. There's conditions requiring full details and installation of those. There's a single battery energy storage system, sort of a single container. Given the proximity to Alnwick, we're satisfied that the conditional requirement for a fire safety plan is reasonable and can be complied with in terms of access to water. There is a separate access and egress in case of emergency, and plenty of space in which for vehicles to turn. The red, small red area in the top of plan, sort of in the top of the section delineating phases 1A, 1B and 2, is a section of hedging that needs to be removed. There's also a welfare building and various elements of infrastructure. It's proposed to have boundary fencing, such as akin to deer fencing, and CCTV cameras to reduce the temptation of crime. You can see the extent of the additional planting around the boundaries, so the site would be enclosed. Proposed planting plan, so given the proximity to the A1 and how visual the site could potentially be, a lot of work has gone into how we go about mitigating that. Part of it is down to landscape character fit, and part of it is down to boundary planting. The existing planting is to be fully retained. Members would have seen the site video, which I took while someone else was driving me north along the A1. So members will have seen the degree of planting and the impression that you get as you travel north. But I'll come on to landscape impact just shortly. There's a single access into the site will be from Taylor Drive, which would be the Quotient Sciences building. There's another access which members may have picked up on through correspondence with National Highways. It's at the bottom of this plan, running along sort of in a north-northwest direction. That's an existing agricultural access. It's not intended to service the site. However, it could be used by emergency vehicles if needed. But don't imagine that would happen. A single battery container. The panels do not connect to the grid. It's designed with an end user, in this instance Quotient Sciences, and phase 2 doesn't have an end user as yet, but I'm sure one will come along. The battery allows excess electricity to be stored at the times to be used at times when the panels aren't producing. So essentially, it's like a virtual power station, which is a phrase being used for these battery parks at the moment. It increases the efficiency of the panels, essentially. Service building, fairly standard service building for engineers, maintenance staff, storage of any materials, etc. It's not envisaged that there will be regular visits to the site. There will be occasional engineers for maintenance purposes. So the real sort of key consideration is the landscape impact. What I've got on screen is a bare earth zone of theoretical visibility, or ZTV. Now what these do, these are a computer-generated image considering the curvature of the earth and topography. They don't include things like buildings or vegetation. And so what you're seeing is an absolute worst-case scenario should all vegetation be completely removed, and the possibility of seeing the site, bearing in mind the more distance views, you are seeing much wider landscape character. So we're seeing what is a very flat landscape, and I have a couple of images which show the landscape character type. So it's not about necessarily hiding it in the landscape, it's more about landscape fit. If I'd liken it to a house, we would be considering a house in terms of how it relates in terms of scale, and it's very similar to landscape fit. So to provide some landscape context, there will be limited views from the A1, but really given the bund and the existing vegetation, I don't anticipate there to be any sort of views. Views will be more distant, but again, as I say, when you're getting further away from the site, these are sort of 5-kilometre lines in terms of the circles there. The concentric circles, we're talking about 5 kilometres. So really, you're getting quite far away before you're starting to really experience distance views on the higher land, on the southeast. Very limited views going north. The bund, I don't believe it will appear incongruous by virtue of the edge of settlement location you're already experiencing as you're travelling north and south on the A1 and the minor roads around the area. You're already experiencing man-made structures and elements. You're already experiencing things like field boundaries, houses, main roads, the A1 itself, of course, and things like that. So you're not going into an entirely virgin landscape. It's not pristine, is what I'm really saying. So moving on, a couple of visuals. I think really the video was probably the best thing ideally, I'd have been able to play the video, but I'm afraid my IT skills don't extend that far. So I'm pleased members have all viewed that. But you can really see the influence of man-made structures in this image. The solar farm itself is indicated by the long line at the back of the image. This is, you are looking at it from the housing development to the north, looking out towards Quotient Sciences on the left-hand side. You've got various playing fields and Alnwick Town play on the right-hand side on that pitch. We've got columns and poles on the left-hand side. We've got Taylor Drive and Quotient Sciences. So you're seeing it in context, and already you can see with the vegetation in the area around the boundary of the site, which is tended to be enhanced and maintained, very limited views from within Alnwick itself. So moving on, when I talked about the rising land, that's what I'm talking about in the background there. And again, we've got very much a man-influenced landscape character with forestry plantations, field boundaries, houses, roads, and so on and so forth. There will be some views from that land there, but seen in context. Imagine yourselves standing on that side, looking back down the slope. You're seeing it in context of Alnwick and the town itself. So really would be absorbed within that context. So in conclusion, officers recommend this application to members subject to the conditions attached in the addendum report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, both our public speakers have withdrawn, so there is no public speaking on this application. Questions to our planning officers? Anyone got any questions to the planning officer? Malcolm Robinson.
Just a very quick one there. It's this wishy-washy language used by National Highways. This was accepted in principle. It's hardly a ringing endorsement of the change that they sought. So, when are they going to give it the endorsement that I'm looking for of them?
Well, I have a consultation response from them on the public file which removes their objection. And it should be detailed in the addendum report. If it's not clear in there, I do apologise. It's probably my wishy-washy language. But essentially, what National Highways have done, and it was just last week, was to give us a, yes, this is acceptable now. There aren't any highway safety issues. And that's why the application has been delayed. We've been trying to resolve these issues for some months now. That goes to show the extent of the seriousness. I would never ask members to endorse something which has something as serious as highway safety issues and question marks. So we've been resolving that to the nth degree. So we have a range of additional conditions attached to the addendum report. They have been agreed with National Highways. Again, I've agreed those directly with National Highways. They've gone and considered them. They've made changes. I've said, yes, that's fine. Happy with those. The applicant has then said, yes, we're happy. So National Highways have given us essentially a no objection subject to conditions response.
Any more questions, ladies and gentlemen? No more questions? Can I have a recommendation, please? Councillor Swinbank.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to propose that we grant this application as per the officer's report and the addendum report from Highways, which was circulated earlier.
Is that seconded? Councillor Hutchinson, seconded. Anyone like to speak to the application?
Can I just say something more?
Of course you can. Let's move with the motion.
But
motion. You will finish any other debate. So can I just ask, anybody else wish to speak?
Chair,
yes,
Chair,
Richard Dodd.
Can I just say, there's a lot goes on and ask about glint glare. It's in this Highways. I've got solar panels and there's no real glint of glare. I know you've got one on your head, Hutch, but there's no real glint and glare that blinds you. I mean, I live 6 miles from Newcastle Airport, and the front of the airport, I've said this before, is a big triangular sort of glass thing. Twice a year, I get that glare from the airport into my house. And it only lasts a few minutes, but it's just certain times of the year when the sun must be at an angle that it comes in. So whatever I heard people say about glint and glare, it doesn't last very long. The earth always moves or whatever, or the sun does. So the glint and glare is a bit of a myth. Thank you.
Well, the glint and glare issue has been removed, thank goodness. And although it might be a bit of a myth, you know, you're saying, Councillor Dodd, that it only happens when the sun is... Well, you know, I'm pleased to say that Highways seem to think the glint and glare issue has gone and the bun's there, and, you know, it will be no distraction to motorists, so let's see. Barry Flux.
I think the phrase, and to add to the debate, the phrase which you're looking for is that they absorb light as much as they reflect light. And they're designed to absorb light, because if they don't absorb light, they're not going to create any power. So you know, it's like on the, if you remember the calculators you used to have with the solar bit on the top of it, it's that colour, isn't it? You know, it's there to absorb light. So that's what it is. And just to add it, because I've come in, I wasn't going to say it, but I'll say it anyway. Annex a rural district with lots of beautiful sites. This is within the urban centre, well, town of Alnwick, an urban service centre for the area. It would seem to me its location right by the A1, and it's not motorway, is it? The A1 and, you know, the business parks and everything would be an ideal location for it. So I wholeheartedly support it, Chair.
Yes, well, I do support it fully too, but I'm pleased for the bund and a little bit of landscaping to lessen the effect of a solar farm right at the entrance to our beautiful town. I am. So, if we've all said our bit, I will ask Councillor Swinbank to sum up.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think most things have been said on this. It is to the south of town, next to the A1. I think with the what's been proposed in terms of the bunds and the planting, then it really will blend in quite well with the environment. It will be visible from some places, definitely, but considering the context of where it is and the industrial estate just over the other side and the housing, the course and sciences, the school, etc., I think it'll blend in fairly well. Point I raised earlier about the opportunity cost of actually being able to connect these renewable energy systems to the grid. That is the issue that's going on here. They cannot get a grid connection in Alnwick because we've already got wind farms connected to the grid, which is a good thing, but it means that in this instance, all the energy has to go by a direct wire to an end user directly, or be stored in the storage on site. So, you know, we are up against that kind of limit in terms of what we can do in the Alnwick area. There hasn't been any discussion, as I understand it, with the developer, with certainly not with the town council in Alnwick, with regard to any community benefit. And I appreciate this is a much smaller scheme and that we can't consider community benefit. But what I would like to do, if my seconder and obviously colleagues here would permit it, is to put an informative onto the application, onto the if it goes through, and to basically ask to the applicant to consider whether they would actually use this as an educational resource within Alnwick, so that the schools and others could actually get the chance to go and have a look at the solar farm. I know this has been done in other places in the country, and I think having these solar farms is a really good educational resource, and that they could be encouraged to make it available for school children to go and visit and understand really how the technology works, and also what the environmental benefits are of using solar. But just to put that on as an informative, it's not something that it would be conditional on.
I think it's a good idea. What do our planning officers think? They're very much community-minded,
Yeah.
course and sciences.
Chair, I do like the idea, but normally we use the informatives to direct the applicant to another piece of legislation or something else that needs to be done through the planning process. So I'm not really 100% comfortable with putting it as an informative, but what we can do, we would absolutely make sure that the applicant is aware of it and the landowners here also tonight, and just see if we can reiterate that and build in this education experience to the proposal.
I'll be very happy with that. Thank you.
From the chair, Councillor Swinbank, I could suggest that maybe you and I might like to go along and speak to Quotient Sciences and see if there is an opportunity to do this, because, you know, I think it is a really sound and good idea. Thank you. Right. So the mover has given us a lot of information. He's moved the application. It's been seconded. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Right, ladies and gentlemen. We move now on to items 7 and 8. This is the demolition of existing buildings, construction of a new secondary school with playing pitch provision, access, parking and landscaping, James Cabot Spence College, Upper School, Acklington Road, and the other application, which we're going to consider alongside it, or it's going to be presented at the same time, is item number 8, the demolition of the former caretaker's cottage and existing buildings, external alterations and extensions to existing buildings, amended access, parking arrangements and associated landscaping. Again, James Calvert Spence College, South Avenue, Amble. And obviously the reason that our presenter, John Sharp, is presenting them together is they're very much intertwined. They're on the same site, but obviously as a planning committee, we will take two separate votes on these at the end. But again, you know, from the chair, I would suggest that, you know, our public speakers this afternoon will speak on both applications together, if that's all right with them. So, John, over to you, sir. Present away.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. There's a couple of quick updates relating to conditions that were recommended in my reports. Firstly, on application 23-1680, the middle school site, a condition number 18 was recommended by the council's public protection team, requesting the submission of dust management plan. This information has been submitted and public protection are happy with the content. The condition can therefore be amended to a compliance condition. The same condition is also included for the high school site. It's condition 26 in that case. However, the requested information has not been submitted in relation to that part of the site, so that condition will need to remain. Secondly, condition 34 on the high school site application was requested by Northumbrian Water to secure details of foul and surface water drainage prior to commencement. Following receipt of updated plans, NWL have confirmed that they are happy with the submitted plans and the condition can now fall away as the appropriate plans are secured via the approved plans condition. So this is the overall location of the two sites. You can see just towards the top of the circle at approximately 1 o'clock there is the middle school site. And further to the west at approximately 9 o'clock is the current high school site. The proposal is to move to build the new high school on the area of green space just to the west of the middle school site. The existing buildings will be demolished. The car park at the existing site will be retained, but otherwise that area of land and the area coming around into where you see the running track there will become part of the playing fields for the new school. So these details are specifically for the application 1677, the new high school site. This one just showing the location plan. As you can see there, the existing buildings to the west, and the location of the new school to the east there. Existing site plan with the red line boundary, and then the proposed site plan showing the new school in situ, the existing car park still remaining on the existing site, but the rest of the site then taken up with a variety of playing fields, sports pitches, multi-use games area. Proposed elevations for the north and east of the new buildings, and to the south and west elevations, and then elevations within the courtyard as well. This become more clear here with the proposed ground floor plan. So the colours that you see on those sites is just denoting the different uses for the various rooms. The light green areas, the large spaces. So you can see the sports barn to the top left there, dining hall and assembly hall at the top middle, and circulation spaces in grey. The light blue is administration, head teachers' offices, that kind of thing. And then the multitude of different colours are the different teaching departments. Proposed first floor plan there as well. And some site photographs. These ones are looking east across the proposed high school site, and then southeast across the site. You can just see in the background there the existing middle school buildings. This is two photos cobbled together, but an attempt to show, just give you a bit of a panorama of the proposed site. Again, you can see the middle school buildings off to the far right there, and houses lining Acklington Road in the background there. Existing buildings, and existing access. The access to be retained, obviously, for the car park, existing buildings to be removed. And more of the existing buildings. And there's a couple of photos here just showing the existing running track. You'll have seen in my report that there have been some concerns from residents about the loss of the track, but I'll come on to that. We move on to the to 1680, the lower school, so the former middle school site. Again, the location plan. Just over to the east here is the 1068, and then the Coquet Enterprise Park on the other side of it, Acklington Road and South Avenue, from which the site is accessed just to the top of the plan there. Existing site plan. And proposed site plan. The key changes, really, mostly this application involves the refurbishment and reuse of the existing buildings. The former caretaker's cottage is to be demolished, as already noted, to make way for the access into the new car park just to the west of the site there. There is a small offshot just adjacent to that car park, you see, which is to be removed and replaced with a bigger extension to create a new reception area, new entrance and reception area for the school. And then within the internal courtyard, it is proposed to demolish 2 link corridors and replace them with full width extensions just to provide more usable space. Proposed north and east elevations, south and west elevations, and within the courtyard. And then ground floor plan, again, multicoloured to just show the different uses of the rooms. First floor plan. Site photos, so we've got the one of the building there, and this is South Avenue, where the main access into the lower school site is taken from. That's the access there that will take you into the new car park, and then just across the back of the site where some modular buildings have already been removed and placed on the high school site to facilitate the works. And that is the former caretaker's cottage, which is to be demolished. And that is your lot. So, as I said, members will have seen reference to comments received in respect of the loss of the existing running track. Comments have been addressed in my report on the high school application. Concerns about access to sports facilities more generally are also noted, and a condition is recommended on the high school application to secure a community use agreement for those. This would apply to both indoor and outdoor sports facilities. A lack of pedestrian access into the site, particularly from new housing developments that have been built and are proposed to the south of the former railway line that runs along the southern boundary of the school site, were also raised as an issue, but no amendments have been made to improve the permeability into the site to allow for students coming from those new houses to not have to come all the way around to Acklington Road to access the site. As always, though, applications must be assessed on their own merits and based upon what is proposed rather than what is not concluded. On balance, it's recommended that both applications be approved. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And they're going to share their time. Obviously, as you are speaking on 2 applications, you will have slightly longer than normal. So instead of the 5 minutes, you've got 10. Thank you. Over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jen Patterson, Associate Director at DPP, and speaking on behalf of the applicant, Northumberland County Council, in respect of both applications. You won't have to listen to me twice. The replacement, James Calvert Spence College and associated outdoor sport and play facilities, and the repurposing of James Calvert Middle School building for 2 schools, Amble Primary School and Barndale School, a special educational needs and disability school, will provide much improved education facilities for local children, and these types of development are supported by planning policy at local and national levels. Northumberland County Council have identified the clear need to overhaul the education provision in the area. These developments will enable provision of the highest quality education within appropriate facilities and will support the move to a 2-tier system of education within the Amble area. The proposals will bring a number of significant benefits to the local community through the provision of new high-quality enhanced teaching and learning environments. The SEND provision will accommodate pupils with special educational needs, including autism, social and emotional mental health, speech, language and communication, and moderate learning difficulties. There is currently no such specialist provision within the COCUT partnership, and all students who need to attend a special school currently have to travel outside of the catchment. Barndale School will address this gap in provision and will be of huge benefit to families in the locality. The developments will also bring community benefits, as the indoor and outdoor facilities at James Calvert Spence College will be made available by way of the community use agreement, supporting the health and well-being of local residents who, alongside present and future pupils, will benefit from these facilities. And the floodlit artificial grass pitch will also facilitate longer hours of community use in the winter months. In terms of amenity and highways impacts, the developments will have acceptable impacts on residential amenity, and the development will maintain highway safety in the area, both in terms of vehicular traffic and pedestrians. We respectfully ask members of the Planning Committee to vote in favour of the officer's recommendation to approve both planning applications. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Neil Rogers. I'm the head teacher at James Calvert Spence College, and I'm here just to talk to you very briefly about what I think the educational benefits will be for the new build secondary school that's been presented to the committee this afternoon. And just really to ask you to follow the recommendations within the report and to support that new secondary school, the much needed new secondary school for the Coalgate Partnership. You'll be aware, and we've heard this afternoon, that Amble and the surrounding villages are being, you know, there's lots of new housing in there that's already been built. There's lots of new housing that's been assented, and the population continues to grow, and it brings new families into the area, and those new families, I believe, need educational facilities that are fit for the modern age, and not what we currently have, which is a building that was finished in the early 1980s and hasn't seen much investment since then. I think what was thought of as good educational provision back in the day hasn't really stood the test of time at all, and our children, your children, deserve better. GCSE, it must be, I'm racking my brain to think, and someone here will know better than me, but I think it must be one of the last secondary schools that stands pretty much as it was when it was built, without any modernisation, expansion or new build. And I think it's about time that changes, really. And I think now is the right time, as all of the schools in the Coalgate Partnership undergo transformation from first, middle and high school into primary and secondary school. Now's the perfect time to invest and to assent this planning application to make sure that our schools remain good, as judged by Ofsted. All of the schools in the partnership are good. All of the schools really deserve to ensure that the kids that are within there get enhanced life chances by having the best facilities that they can possibly have. So why this design? You know, I'm told you we need a new school, and of course I would say that, but why do I think this design's the right one? Well, I've been the head teacher there for nearly 8 years, and I think in that time I've got to know the children, I've got to know the community, I've got to know the area, I've got to know the employers, I've got to know exactly what they want and need in their community school. And the significant input that me and the senior team in the school have been allowed and afforded by the architects and the building professionals working alongside them for an extensive period of time, the influence that we've had on the plans that were shown earlier, it means that I'm confident that it will deliver both now and in the future for the young people. I think that the addition of playing fields by annexing the land adjacent to South Avenue rather than kind of building within the, on the existing playing fields, it not only provides a seamless transition for those children who will be caught up within the time frame of this building, whereby they'll stay in one building and then move seamlessly to another one that's been built 100 yards away. But also, in the longer term, it provides, as we've seen, large amounts of playing fields, sports facilities, and other things that people can use during the day and our community can access during the evenings, weekends and holidays. The design of the building that we've worked hard on allows for enhanced learning opportunities for the students, significantly improved sixth form facilities and community access to those specialist rooms that were talked about earlier for the lifelong learners in the community, whether they're 18 or 80. So to conclude, I think that accepting the recommendation within the report and giving planning permission to this application will be hugely beneficial to generations of Northumberland residents, particularly in the Coalgate area, and I would urge you to support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Members of the committee, questions to the planning officer? Councillor Dodd.
Yeah, I remember applications going back a while to schools at Alnwick, and there was a huge play on the fencing around any extensions, new schools, etc. I'm going back a while, but it was a big issue. Is that sort of off the agenda? Because every fence I've seen on there, and I mean some of them will be coming down, I've no doubt, didn't look very good. So I just wondered if there was anything in there for security, because it was a big thing once over.
Perimeter fencing?
Yeah, the perimeter fencing will need to be of a certain height, from a safeguarding point of view. I appreciate that's probably not shown on the plans that I've shown to you there this afternoon. I believe there is a boundary treatments plan on the file though, but it'll be your standard wire mesh, 3 metre high or green fencing or however high it is around the entire site.
Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chair. Well, just to say, first of all, solar farms leave me cold, but they don't float my boat, but new schools do. So I'm very excited. And I hope to have one my way as well very soon. But so obviously just looking at the detail, aren't we? So just picking up on some of the detail. One thing, and I know it's not probably fundamental to, well, it isn't to whether we'd approve this or not. It seems, and we have this across Northumberland where we have lots of playing fields, we're very lucky. Lots of schools have lots of playing fields. We'd be the envy of more, densely populated areas. And you often see we've got all these playing fields and a lot of them aren't being used because there's more than enough. And one thing I know that is often in demand is running tracks. You've just agreed, my residence, one of the sort of facilities need to be great to have a running track. So, I mean, I presume, I don't know the area, I don't know the school, there's been a lot done in the design, so I presume there's a good reason, but it seems to me a shame to get rid of a running track as adding to the suite of leisure facilities that are there. But I presume there's a good reason.
Yeah, I've addressed this in my report anyway on the high school application. And it has been raised as an issue by a number of members of the public, some of whom I know I actually know as members of the running community in the area. And yes, it is. It would be a shame not to see it replaced. However, we have had justification from the governing body, the national governing body, England Athletics. We've had comments back from the County Council's sports development team. We have had a response from statutory consultee in Sport England raising no objections to the proposals, basically saying, well, yes, it would be nice if this could be replaced. There are, they're not raising any objections. Part of that goes back to the fact that discussions have taken place with the council in respect of the playing pitch strategy, but they haven't moved on to such an extent where they are able to fully determine that that would be the appropriate place for such facilities to be located. Okay, so there's a process that needs to be gone through in terms of addressing the playing pitch strategy and determining where those facilities should go that isn't as advanced as it might be. This application has come along at a point where we can't say for sure that actually this should be located here. I understand the school have had discussions in terms of the management of such a facility, and basically crux of it was, I think, effectively they wouldn't be able to manage it effectively. And therefore, yeah, it hasn't been included in the proposed plans. The proposed plans are acceptable in and of themselves. It would be nice if if those proposals had been included, but we are where we are.
Councillor Ball.
Thanks, Chair. I'm just wondering, as well as everybody else, about the running track. I think it is quite disappointing that we are losing it. But with regards to the grassroots sport and the playing pitches, etc., there does seem to be quite a number there. If they are going to be rented out commercially, the car parking could be an issue. If they are all rented out at the same time, that's going to bring a lot of parents and a lot of people to that area. Is there any concerns being raised about that? Is it being addressed at all? Because when you start getting big numbers of grassroots football in one place at one time, it does cause issues with parking on verges and things like that in the local area. So I'm just wondering if that has been addressed. Yeah. And I would love to see that running track, because I think it's absolutely tragic that in Northumberland we have very, very few. And if you haven't got them, you ain't going to produce any great runners. So I think it's a shame that we can't keep that and support other grassroots except the ones that are considered commercially viable.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of parking, Highways have raised no objections in terms of the proposals that have been presented. Obviously, the existing car park at the high school site is to be retained in addition to the new build element and obviously the new car park at the lower school site as well. How that will be managed going forwards in terms of in terms of what you're talking about, I don't know, but that obviously wouldn't necessarily be for this planning application. There are a couple of conditions on there from Sport England relating to the Mugger and how it's going to be used, and obviously a community access agreement to be resolved as well. So it may well be that actually parking, it comes out in the wash with that.
It just seems that it's being considered as a school application and not, if it is going to be used commercially on an evening, weekend, etc., rented out to local football teams, it could potentially have an impact on the local community as well. That's, as I say, it does seem to have been assessed as a school, not the other operations of it.
Liz Cinnamon's going to say something to you.
I'm going to try to see if I can just sort of give you some comfort that if there is to be use of those pitches, there is a clear condition come through from Highways Development Management asking for the car parking management strategy. So they'll want to know how the pitches are going to be used outside of school hours to be satisfied that they can accommodate it. So there will be some management there. It's not for this application, it's just to give you comfort that we will continue with the dialogue to be able to allow the school to facilitate something, but not for the traffic that comes as a result of that to flow out onto the local highway or onto the neighbouring streets. So there is something there to give that the protection. I hope that gives you a little bit of comfort on that, Councillor Ball. And Chair, if you don't mind, I just want to address the point about the running track. With all of these types of applications, there is often compromise, but on this, what there absolutely is no loss of any playing areas available to the community and to the school users. And I think that's really important because often when we look at applications such as this, sometimes there has to be a little bit of give and there isn't any here. We have had a lot of dialogue about the track as well with Sport England, and they are very protective about what it is that they want to deliver on. There's discussions with them can be at times terse because they absolutely want to ensure that they fulfil their statutory role, which is that they provide as much as what there is now to what there will be in the new proposal. And they haven't objected to it. And I think that'll be because the school have demonstrated how this proposed use is going to be better than retaining the running track. There's going to be more opportunities for all the users. And also there is that side issue about the management of it as well. So it's better to have everything being used under proper management than something being a bit of a headache for the schools as well to manage. So I hope that helps try and explain it. There's always got to be a big bit of a give, but there is absolutely no loss on the play and sport facilities.
It's been useful, thank you. Councillor Wallace.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, much has been said, and we're all aware of the increase in house building in Amble. And within the report, it says there's a further 500 houses to come very close to this site. So, could somebody explain to me why floodlighting will be on till 11 o'clock at night when it's surrounded completely by residents? I'm sure there'll be over the moon that the light is on till 11 o'clock at night. I mean, I can understand in Qatar when they had the World Cup and because it was 30 degrees, kick-off was late at night, but Amble never gets to that heat, right? So, 11 o'clock, I can't even believe Sport England agreed to that.
Yes, well, a lot of the houses aren't built at the moment, but I'm sure when they are, that condition will be questioned. Anything to chip in there?
No, other than to say that we've had no objections from Public Protection to the application. So.
Don't circulate your phone number.
Thank you.
Chair, could I just come in on that? I must admit, I was surprised when I saw that the proposed hours were till 11 o'clock in the evening as well. Public Protection would have taken into account the fact that there is consents there. I think probably the justification for that, I can't speak for them, but the floodlighting that you get today is very different to times gone, and there's a very low light spill of it. And I think they would have looked at the distances between the floodlighting and the adjacent properties and concluded that there would be no harm. I can only guess why, but and hopefully sport can continue to be played till 11 o'clock at night.
Yes, I'm just thinking about the noise from the games as well, keeping people up at night, 11 o'clock. Yeah. Any more questions? Councillor Swin.
Thank you, Chair. The last major school application which came before us was Seaton Delaval. And one of the, I'll just quote from the report, buildings which when operational should be net carbon zero was within that report. I'd understood that that was the way we were moving with all our buildings that we were particularly new buildings. I'm not talking so much about the retrofit. So it was just to have some kind of confidence that this building will be at that same standard as Seaton Delaval.
Yeah, the application documents have made much of the sustainability credentials, but we have also recommended a condition securing further details of sustainable construction techniques to be submitted.
Chair, is that sufficient? When we pass a housing application, we get that kind of wording, and we know that housing developers do not need to put solar panels on, etc., because that's not within the National Planning Policy Guidance. In this situation, we are, as an authority, we're building the school. I assume that we're paying for this school. And we've stated in our policy that every building will be net zero in use. So I'm just looking for the confidence, really, that that is going to be followed through in this building.
Councillor Swinbank, you make a good point, and we certainly work more toward that conversation with applications that are coming forward through the system at the moment. What is good about this is that we can put that condition on, and we will look to seek further information on that. And also, there is other regulatory schemes that pick up on the climate change need for during construction, such as our building control regulations, and I know that their thresholds are very high, and it will be caught there also. And what we can do is give some feedback to our education team on applications coming forward, and if we've got a bit more detail about the green credentials of the build, that would be useful. There probably is a whole suite of measures proposed here. We just haven't got the information through the application process. I did notice, Chair, that there are EV charging points proposed, which is something that we do ask in some of our house builder applications as well.
I think he's hoping for more than EV charging points.
I think I'm looking, yeah. I mean, the point is that building regulations are being tightened, which is good, and that relates to commercial operations. But this is something that, as council, we have definitely stated that we are going to do. So I'm just like to be clear that we're stating that we're going to do that in this instance.
Indeed, Martin. Councillor Dodd.
Yeah, we've heard 2 or 3 councillors sort of say things that are beyond our power, from the solar farms and getting 106 and other things, and like what's just been said. These things, you've got to get upstream of where we're actually at a planning application. It's a great wish list to have everything you want at a planning application, but it's never going to change unless you get upstream or whatever of the schools that we're going to build in 2 or 3 years' time or whatever. Then that is the place. And I know councils are sometimes still relatively new, but it's not here. It's not in the planning. It's in somewhere else. And I request that they find somewhere else, which is, the local development plan or whatever, where you can actually change things to get something out of solar or to get something that you wish for now. But it's not the place tonight. And the parking problem that was talked about earlier, why don't they get Northumberland parking services in like they did at Ponteland, and the away team fans, the away team bus, the away team rugby, that everybody got a ticket. It went down very well.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Doyle. Well, as an enlightened chairman, you know, I think we've got to stick by planning policy rigidly like yourself. But I'm very happy to hear these comments from younger councillors than myself so that these issues can be brought forward, because I do feel this is a forum where we can raise the flag for better things. So well done, Councillor Hill. Well done. The Green Councillor, come on, wave that flag. So, but they will. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. John, just to go off piste a little bit, you know those modular buildings that were relocated? Are they part of this planning application?
No, they were part of a separate planning application that has already been determined. The modular buildings needed to be moved from the middle school site to the high school site in advance of the current school year, so that they were ready for the new intake. So that's all already been done.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. Someone like to move a recommendation? Councillor Stewart.
I wasn't going to. I was just going to ask one point, but I'm happy to do that, though.
Well, ask your question first.
Sorry?
Ask your question first.
Thank you. So, am I right in thinking, John, that the hall will be open until 10 p.m, but the floodlights on the outside will be open until 11 p.m? Would it cause any major concern, bear in mind what's been said earlier, if we had them both at 10 p.m? Have it a condition that the floodlights are turned off at 10?
That's certainly something we could look at, and if members were keen to see any of those conditions amended, in the interests of residential amenity, for example, then certainly something that we could look at.
Thank you.
If I may then, Chair, to recommend the officer's recommendation for, we're doing both? Yeah.
One at a time.
Okay.
So we're looking at item number 7 first. 2301677 CCD, which is the high school.
Right.
So you're recommending?
Officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Thank you very much. Anybody wish to speak to the application? Barry.
Yeah, I didn't want to ask any questions. It's all very clear, the questions thing in my mind. But having listened to some of the questions, I think it's been stated about Sport England, and I think that's a key point. Sport England can be very difficult at times, and rightly so. That's their position, is to be difficult, frankly, and rightly so. Sport is a massive part of our national culture, our fabric, and everything about us. I'm delighted to see that there's lots of football pitches on there. It's our national game. There's a game going on at the moment, which a lot of people have got interested in this room. Not me, but plenty of people do. And I think of Amble, and I think of Lucy Bronze, our European Championship winning footballer from Amble, and all the training that future Lucy Bronze could do on these pitches. And I think of Bobby Charlton down the road, who's just passed, the great Bobby Charlton, who played for Manchester United and played for England, and of Jackie Charlton, of course, who played for Leeds and played for England. And I think of all the opportunities they might have on this facility. So I really like that there's lots of sport provision on there, and I really like that Sports England have no objections, and I'm sure if there were proper reasons for them to object to, they would have come here. I remember being at school myself and having some of you were counsellors when I was at school, and I remember having to run round at 8:15 in the morning on a cold morning round football pitches and round cricket pitches and around things which are now housing estates, sadly. And there are plenty of opportunities for all kinds of sports. There were experts out there from Sports England, from the school, from the whole whole bang of things who know what is needed and what should be coming here. And I think we need to get behind them and support fully what's in front of us. I haven't even got a problem about 11 o'clock, to be honest. I haven't even got a problem about that. I was at university, I played ice hockey at Whitley Bay until 2 o'clock in the morning. Because it's the only time we could get a booking, 1 till 2 in the morning. And, you know, all right, we're indoors, but there's people going in, banging, you know, whatever, you know. So I fully support this application, both applications, but the one that's been presented and proposed, and I will be voting for it.
Councillor Hutchinson. Did you wish to speak? Your turn, sir. Speak away.
It was a pleasure to second this, actually, but I have got major concerns, as has been expressed by one or two, about this 11 o'clock thing for the sports pitch. I think it is too late. I just trust the officers for the future that we can do something, if it is necessary, to put conditions in somewhere, negotiate with the applicant, as the advert says we are, the police, to do something if it's needed regarding the floodlighting. Thanks.
Thank you. Are you going to come back on that?
Yeah, Chair, if it's okay, I do think it's an important point, and it's about that community use, and what I just want to draw members' attention to is that there is a condition for a community use agreement, so that controls who's going to be using it, how long they're going to be using it, and how late into the evening. And there is also a lighting condition and a noise management plan for the Mugga and the sports pitches. So it's not just about the lighting, there are lots of other controls that will happen there at the site. I think the lighting, obviously at the minute, the public protection team find that the proposal is acceptable, but they do have a lighting verification condition there as well. So all of those things will have to be checked, and the community use agreement is going to be that overall overarching agreement that's going to control everything that happens on those pitches. It may be the case that they will not be used till 11 o'clock at night for lots of other reasons. But if members wish, they can, for the concerns that they have about neighbouring amenity, consider reducing it to, say, 10 o'clock.
Thank you. That's more reassuring. Thanks.
Yeah. Councillor Swinburne.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, very much in support of this application, but just to give planning officers some help potentially when they are negotiating with education on how this is built. In our 2023 corporate plan, in the Achieving Value for Money section, it says all new council-owned properties will be built to net zero in operation as a minimum standard. And we've got to remember, of course, that that will help the school tremendously, because having a school which is built to net zero standards will massively reduce their energy use. And we know how stretched school budgets are, so having a building of that standard will massively help the education of children within the Amble area.
Thank you. Any more debate? Just from the chair, I would like to say how delighted I am for Amble that you're getting this new school. Obviously, we've got a fine new school in Alnwick, and it's only right and proper that these facilities are distributed well across the county. But, you know, again, I shouldn't really do this, but I'm going to because I'm sitting in the chair. I have been fighting for a new school for Long Framlington and Swarland. It was a temporary build back in 1937. It's a wooden hut. It's a wooden hut with a felt roof. But can I get education to move on it? Certainly not. But no, you know, good for Amble, and I'm sure it's going to help the education and the prospects of your pupils in that area. And, you know, we are the very people in this committee too that have given those permissions for the 500 houses. So I hope they all feed into your school and make it prosperous and make it do well. No, exactly. That was my... Well, no. It's a free vote for us all. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been moved by Barry. It's been seconded by Hutch. Oh, sorry, Councillor Stewart. Seconded by Hutch. All those in favour? Unanimous. Marvellous. Well done, committee. Well done. Thank you very much, sir. Enjoy your school.
Second application.
Oh, yeah. Item number 8. Get me back on the agenda. Sorry? Not at all. I'm not a footballer. Item number 8. 23/01/680/CCD. So we're now taking the vote on that application. Would somebody like to move it? Barry Flux, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson.
Clarify the proposal, please.
As per in the report, Chair. I beg your pardon, legal officer.
And seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. All those in favour?
Sorry. Sorry.
Well, yeah, and we're keen that we have a look at the floodlights being switched off at 10 o'clock rather than 11. Thank you.
Sorry, can we just take the vote again?
Take the vote again, ladies and gentlemen. One more time for your hands in the air. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, we've got the planning appeals updates there on item number 9 and the S106 agreement update report on pages 135 and 138 there for information. I have no urgent business. I'd like to thank you for coming